I get many paralegals who often reach out to me saying, Misty, I'm sending out my resume everywhere, but I'm just not getting the interviews. And recently I had a paralegal discovery call with a gentleman who actually sent his resume out to all of the attorneys in his surrounding area. There were over 200 of them. Now you might be saying, wow, this is an incredibly bold move, but it didn't exactly yield the results that he wanted. And in today's video, we're gonna take a deep dive into that resume and talk about why he didn't get the results he wanted and what you can do differently. Smash that subscribe button, smash that like button if this resonates with you, and let's dive into things today. The biggest tip that I can provide you when it comes to your resume is to remember that one size doesn't fit all. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you are not a one size fits all. The people who you are trying to get a job with, the people who you are trying to get an interview with, they are not a one size fits all. And thus, your resume should never be a one size fits all as well. The same thing that a bankruptcy attorney would need would not be the same thing that an IP attorney would need. If you are interviewing and you're sending your resume out to a medical malpractice attorney, that's probably not the same type of resume that you're going to send to a big corporate law, merger and acquisition sort of law firm environment. And it's just because we're not a one size fits all. There are very unique needs in every different type of law, in real estate, in IP, in criminal, in family, and civil litigation. It's all different, and thus the skills that are required to really excel in those environments are a little bit different. And so you really have to do some recon and look at what those skills are and level up on those skills and apply accordingly. And so because they're not a one size fits all, you're not a one size fits all, your resume isn't a one size fits all, it means that you probably need multiple forms of that resume. In some situations, you're really going to need to bank on perhaps your project management or your customer service relations. Those sort of law firms who will and actually do hire from retail and food industries, they're looking at those particular industries and at those resumes because of their customer service skills, because of their project management skills. Now, alternatively to that, when it comes to something like IP or workers' compensation, they're going to really need you to be an expert in Adobe Acrobat Pro, in Microsoft Word, perhaps in PowerPoint. And that's just not the same type of information that would be needed for somebody who does major medical malpractice or, trucking litigation cases, where maybe in medical malpractice, your medical terminology background, that's really what you need to capitalize on that situation. For personal injury, for workers' compensation, your medical terminology background is important. So that's what you're going to want to bank on. Moving on beyond that point, how many pages is your resume? That's a big one too, because if I'm printing out a resume and there's like 6 pages coming with that resume, that scares me, and it will scare a future employer. Even without looking at that resume, we can probably guarantee that about 3 to 4 of those pages is work history, which means that you've had a lot of work history. You probably bounced around a lot. And that's really intimidating for someone who's looking at hiring you, because hiring you and onboarding you is very time consuming and likely expensive for that firm. So take a look at how many pages your resume is taking up. Now, I like to stick to 2 pages. And if you have created a resume using Career Builder or Indeed, where you don't actually have like a paper form of resume, it's a digital resume that you kind of fill in all the information on those platforms and they create a resume for you. Go back and look at that resume as a potential employer and print your resume. What does it look like? What is the format of it? How many pages was it taking up? There are these little tests that you can do on Indeed.com, and they're great and all, but sometimes they just put a lot of fluff in your resume that the potential employer just really isn't looking for. They can look at those skills that you have on your resume and your work history and your resume and usually get a pretty clear picture of what your technical and soft skills are. So diving deeper into that, we're going to talk about removing the fluff from your resume. There's so much fluff that I see in people's resume, and I get why people put it in there because they're trying to really beef up this resume. But sometimes it's just really redundant and it's just a whole lot of fluff building it up, and it's really busy and it's putting in a lot of content and information that I really don't need to see. And it's removing me and my eyes away from perhaps things that I should or could be focusing on. So let's talk about the fluff that you need to remove from your resume. First and foremost, remove your objective. You do not need an objective on a resume. To be honest, I know what your objective is. Your objective is to get a job. And if you choose to expand upon that on your resume, really it's just fluff. I know that you're trying to utilize some skills that you learned in some place and expand upon your knowledge in this crazy legal industry. So remove the objective because it's just adding information to your resume that doesn't need to be there. Instead, use that space for something more that capitalizes on the skills that you have that's going to catapult you into that interview and land you the job that you want. Next, if you are over the age of 30, or if you have graduated from a technical institute, a certificate program, an associate's degree in a community college, or a bachelor's degree from a university, or certainly a master's degree or a Juris Doctorate degree. And yes, there are paralegals with Juris Doctorate degrees. But if you have any of those things, then remove the fact that you went to high school on your resume. I mean, if you've graduated from one of those programs, then you've clearly gotten beyond the whole high school thing, and high school isn't needed on your resume. Kind of expanding on that, your GPA isn't needed on your resume either. And frankly, if they want your GPA, they're going to request your transcript as well, or request that you produce your transcript. And I have seen that happen, and it's usually in big law firms, hundreds of people, multiple offices. They'll usually either request a transcript or request that you produce them one. So those are the only people that really care about your GPA. Beyond that, your skills on your resume, your work history, and what you are bringing to the table matter more to that future employer, matter more to the people who are looking at your resume. So remove all that fluff. You don't need it. Now, what if you have references? If you have specific references, that's awesome. Always have those ready to go, but don't actually list those references on your resume. Instead, I would like you to perhaps get a letter of reference, a letter of recommendation, and attach that to your resume instead of just listing references. I think having a letter of recommendation, having a letter of reference is so much stronger than simply listing names and numbers and email addresses on your resume. I think it's fluff that you can remove from your resume because those letters attached to your resume are going to hold so much more weight than what information content is on a resume. And going beyond that point, just having that information on your resume actually creates more homework for the person interviewing you, and they're going to call or email that person and get more information from them. If, on the other hand, they already have the letter of recommendation attached to your resume, then there's not such a need to call and reach out to that reference. Now, if they're really doing their due diligence, they will. But if they have it already in hand, someone's not likely to forge that information. At least I hope that you wouldn't. So just keep that in mind, that having those letters attached is going to hold so much more weight. Now, moving on, for those of you who are still with me, I have some bonus items for you. So what if you're sending all of these different resumes out there and you're just not getting any call back for interviews? If that is the case, then you really need to be taking a second, third, fourth, fifth look at your resumes that you're sending out. What is the issue with your resume? What are people not responding to? Is there a typo? Now, there are some tools out there that will help you craft the perfect resume. So if you don't already know about it, Canva has built-in AI. It's their Magic Write platform. It's right in canva.com. So head over there and work on crafting the perfect resume using their AI builder. And coming soon, you're going to be able to use Microsoft Copilot to not only craft the perfect resume, but to also help craft letters and other things that you're going to need to write when you're actually there on the job in the law firm. And that is Microsoft Word's Copilot. And we're going to talk about that more in upcoming videos. And of course, ask others to review your resume. There are online forums and Facebook groups and all sorts of people who are willing to take a look at your resume. Just a second or third set of eyes could be helpful. Now, moving on, what if you're getting the interviews, but you're not landing the job? So if you're actually getting the interviews, then your resume is fine. That means that you need to take a second, third, and fourth look at your interviewing skills. So while your resume is great, your interviewing skills may not be so fabulous. So there are a couple of tools that you have also available for interviewing skills as well. Of course, there are always friends and family. Ask them to interview you. Give them a certain set of questions that perhaps you pick up off the internet and give them to them and ask them to interview you and just work on that flow of the conversation of the interview. I always say that great interviews are fantastic conversations. Another tool that you could use is Microsoft PowerPoint. Now, PowerPoint also has a little bit of AI built into it. You can use Presenter Coach as a means of practicing your interview skills. Now, what Presenter Coach is going to do is it's going to tell you whether or not you're talking too fast or you're talking too slow or you need to enunciate better. It's going to give you all of the good things that it would a presenter at a speaking gig. So this can really help with your interviewing skills. A final thing that you can do, and I really don't hear very many people doing this, and I don't know why they don't do this, but ask why you didn't get the job. Ask for feedback. I mean, anytime a student or somebody takes any one of my classes, my workshops, my courses, or talks to me in a discovery call, I will send a feedback form to them. I want their feedback. I want to find out how I did or what I can do to change their experience and how I can improve upon my skills and services that I'm providing to people like you and people who call me. So if somebody is reaching out to you by telephone or email and letting you know that, hey, they're moving on, you didn't get the job, that's okay. But I want you to ask why. Ask why you didn't get the job. Say, I'm looking to improve upon my interviewing skills, or what could I have done differently so I can make sure to level up and not do that again in the next interview. I mean, I'm sure you can give it more eloquence than that, but ask why. Get feedback from why you didn't get that job so that, you can sort of practice your interviewing skills and what you can change and improve upon and get that next job. Now, if you're still watching this and you're like, Misty, I got the interview, I got the job, but I can't keep the job and I just keep moving on to more and more jobs and I can't find the perfect place to be. That is another video for another time, but nonetheless, please don't give up. If this is a passion of yours and you're in this for the long haul and this is something you seriously want to do, you're going to have to figure out how to do it. If doors aren't magically opening for you, you're going to have to figure out how to build your own darn doors and you're going to have to open them for yourself. Step in to your future self. But use these skills that we talked about today. Remember that one size doesn't fit all. Remove the fluff and have fantastic conversations. Be unique, stand out, and remember, good luck to you in all that you do, because this crazy legal industry needs an amazing paralegal boss just like you. Have an amazing rest of your day. Have a wonderful week or weekend ahead of you. And I will see you guys back here on the next one. Mwah. Bye, guys.